Welcome to The Uniformer. Insights into and interviews with the people and companies that drive the markets for uniforms, image apparel, public safety, and workwear.
Hello, welcome to The Uniformer. I'm Rick Levine, Executive Director at the NAUMD, here with my fantastic columnists and colleagues, who I will let introduce themselves. Leslie, what's up?
Sure. I'm Leslie McGardle. Currently, I'm a director at a company called Fabian Group. I have been within this industry, don't date myself, about 25 plus years, and one of my favorite subjects.
Yay, Aileen.
So I'm Aileen Out. I'm from the Netherlands. I am a columnist for the NUMD. I am also the owner of prettybusiness.nl and prettybusinessworld.com, where I write articles about workwear, uniforms, and PPE for almost 10 plus years now.
Nice. Yeah. Amazing. I get your newsletter, of course. I love it. So this format for this podcast, if this is your first time tuning in, is each of us have brought two news items / topics affecting the uniform industry in specific or in general, and we don't know what each of us has brought. And so we're just going to round robin and discuss them and see what comes up. And who is our first today? Aileen.
I'm first today. So let's talk about dress codes. Yeah, because Indeed, maybe you know the organization.
What's it called again?
Yeah, Indeed.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. And it's a worldwide organization. I forgot the word in English, but they have a lot of jobs for people. And what they did in let's say the past few months is they dived into the world of casual workwear. And they were searching into all the job applications, I think you call them, and looking for the word casual. So how many companies in which countries are saying that they have a casual dress code?
Very interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting because, of course, in the last years, especially since the pandemic, the world of casual workwear is getting bigger and bigger. But they found out that I've also compared it to the US with another survey that's not from Indeed. But in the US, 31% of people are wearing casual clothes at work. That's a pretty big amount when you compare it to other parts of the world. For example, in London, only 2.3% are wearing casual clothes.
Really?
Yeah, and that is just, just for companies who are saying our dress code is casual.
So it's like we can't compare completely apples to apples, but we can look at how they describe it, how they think about it. Is this, okay. You have to dress, and a distinction maybe between corporate casual or casual, right? It's like,
they come with the Indeed survey, they compared it. So formal dress code or casual, and you of course have business casual. But they saw that, for example, in Australia, casual dress codes are not a big thing. Only 0.41% of the companies have a casual dress code. But in Ireland, when you look at it from, let's say, a European kind of perspective, Ireland has the most companies who are having a casual dress code. But the US is way more. So I think this was very interesting, especially when you look at London, for example. You think, oh, that's a big city, people are more, let's say, casual. If I compare it, let's say, in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, you see so much more different styles. People are wearing their own style. I mean, it's a big city. But yeah, it's interesting to see that in London it's more formal than, let's say, in parts of Ireland.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And one thing I'm thinking about as you're telling us this is, we've, at least here in the US, we speak of, 40 million people in the, uniform dress arena, right? These are, we don't have the actual numbers, but we estimate that. So that means that a certain percentage of our population is in the have to wear, right? They're wearing workwear, or they're wearing an actual uniform, or they're wearing, just a safety vest, whatever. So if you say that that's, a third of adults, and then a third of adults are dressing casually, and then a third of adults are dressing not casually. I mean, that's really interesting, actually, Aileen.
Well, I have here the numbers when you're talking about uniforms. This is a research from 2023, and they said that in average, 23% of people are wearing a uniform, and therefore it's 14% women and 31% of men.
Was that for the Europe or the US or where?
For the US.
Yeah, very.
Because you said, yeah, that is what I see from the survey that I found about US workers. And that they say that, let's say in general, 41% is having a business casual dress code, 31% is having casual, and then you have 23 uniforms, and then 3%, only 3% business professional.
Very interesting.
That
Leslie,
sounds
what do you think, Leslie? And especially given that Fabian is in the more formal dress business.
I know, right? So I do believe like the definition of casual intrigues me. Business casual, I always take business casual as you still wear a nice pair of pants, you're just not going to wear a tie. Speaking for men's. Women's, you still wear nice pants, maybe a blazer. It's not like you have to be 100% buttoned up. Maybe jeans on Friday, but I'm still thrown with true casual. Like, what's that? Is it jeans and sneakers? And
I think so.
Yeah, to me, that would be more leaning towards the technical side. Like when you think people at Google or people at even Tesla, I can see them more casual, not coming in with suits. It's just me just thinking of the type of industry where I see super like buttoned up is obviously banking and finance. Will always kind of seem to have like buttoned up, but I find those numbers super interesting.
Yeah.
I've once read an article about a guy who was, I think, one of the highest persons in Facebook, and he always wears a suit. And he said he was literally always looked at the company. So, like, what are you wearing? Because no one is wearing suits, and he was just wearing it because he was used to it from former jobs, and he also just likes it. It's not like a typical black or blue suit, but it's also a guy who wants to, let's say, combine patterns and colors and ties and be creative with it. But he always said when he's walking on, let's say, the area for Facebook, people are looking at him like, what are you doing here? So
I don't see people in ties too much, even where I am, because obviously they're suiting, but ties I think are more formal or function, or like I do lead towards like certain industries and banking and things like that, I understand. But even if like you're in lawyer type thing, suiting probably more so if you're going into court. So like I think suiting has its place in dress code, but it is absolutely smaller than it used to be.
Way smaller. Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. You can even see it by just looking around.
Of course. Yeah, that's very interesting. I would encourage you, Aileen, to write these observations and numbers up in one or more columns. I think these are great topics for.
Okay, I will. Yeah, I'm also preparing an article for my own website, but maybe just focus on, especially comparing with the US. It's a good idea for a column as well.
Yeah, well, as we've discussed, they can fit in both, right? And there might be a nuance you decide to run in one versus the other, but overlapping readership. Very interesting. So I have one that sort of tags along with this. So I'm going to go next, Leslie. Is I wrote a column this month about employee turnover. Okay. And I think the topic came up when we had a image apparel directors meeting at the end of last month. And one of our members was talking about how they service grocery stores. And they said that it's just this incredible turnover. You don't really think about it, but they get some crazy numbers. It's like over 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And
Mhm.
so it got me thinking, and we discussed it in the moment as well. And then I wrote a little article about it because I asked for some stats, like Aileen, you were just doing. I was like, well, hey, ChatGPT, can you help me find statistics on what professions or what industries and what their rates of turnover are compared to each other? And then let's do a like a bell curve, like a low, medium, high of turnover. And so there's ones where there's not a lot of turnover, right? So in law enforcement, you're kind of you stick with that job pretty much, versus quick service restaurants and
I
grocery
was
stores.
just going to say quick serve is a big
Yeah.
one.
So there's these ones that are super high turnover, but so that part's not interesting. We can imagine that. What got my interest in that topic, though, was a bit of the ethical considerations of uniform companies. So if you have an industry that has a super high turnover, is there a bit of a guilt in, oh my, I'm just delivering so much product because people are just going in and out of the company constantly. So they may only wear these goods for 6 months and then they quit. And then there's, 3 employees and now they're ordering another, kit, another set for that new hire. And then the ethics of it come into, well, if they're only going to be wearing it for a short amount of time, I can make products that are more disposable, right? And then if I'm making products that are more disposable, I'm really, being a bad corporate citizen and not doing anything very sustainable. So, there's this, but if I make the products last too long and I'm selling into a low turnover market, right? Then, how am I going to grow my company? Because now I'm saying that this shirt now is going to last you 100 washings and not 50 washings. And, so have I just reduced my profits, in favor of it just really it's interesting to me. And corporations get such a bad rep for being solely interested in the pursuit of the dollar, right? But then you get companies like Patagonia that are hugely successful, yet making products that quote unquote last forever, right? So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
It's everything you said is so true, because I've sat in those positions where we're working, but I still come with the philosophy of part of what would fix that is it's difficult, obviously, because when you have high turnover, the client doesn't want to pay a lot. Is there any exactly? It's like, because then I'm thinking like, biodegradable things like that can always help, because if the uniform isn't going to last long already, there are things that you can treat it with, like like C-Glow, if I'm saying it.
Yes.
Yeah. Things like that we know quick serve restaurants have bought into, some of them the biggest. So things like that are so interesting to me, but I don't know what the right answer is, because it's so true. Because I've worked at big corporations where they're like, great, high turnover, more, we're going to ship.
Right.
And it's like, and then I've been in
Where's
places
the balance?
where it's like, you have to make it last.
How can we as an industry find the right balance so that we're being good corporate citizens, but we're making a profit for our stakeholders, which includes our employees, so that they can keep getting raises and support their families, right? I'm not just talking about, shareholder value. I'm talking about, as the head of the World Economic Forum calls it, let's talk about stakeholder capitalism, right? It's not just the shareholder, but the employees then benefit and their families benefit and local businesses benefit when that company is profitable. But how long we make a product last is
a big one.
So one
But
thing,
maybe
yeah, Aileen, go ahead.
maybe it's a silly question, but isn't it also that if you make a uniform that you can last for a longer period of time, and someone disappears, someone comes in, you just give, let's say, a uniform that's already worn by someone else?
So is that possible? Can we have a
It happens all the
recycled?
time here. I don't
Does
understand.
it? Oh, no.
But is it laundered professionally before you give it to the new
Yeah,
person?
laundry's
Well, for
default.
example, when I was working at when I was young, I was in school. I was working at a big shop. I think it's compared to Target or something to in the Netherlands, where they sell a lot of different stuff. And I had a uniform, but when you work there, they just give you a uniform that's already worn by someone else.
Yeah,
So
they don't do that here.
oh, because you have, let's say, in the they have, let's say, a closet with all
Yep.
the sizes,
Yep.
and then just give you a uniform. And when it's like, when it's just old, they throw it away. You give a new one, but almost no one gets a new uniform. It's most of the time because, I was working there for 1 or 2 years besides school. So then I was leaving, and they had the same with a lot of people who are just working there for a short period of time, and that was all fine. And they just got a second-hand uniform.
That's very rare here.
Oh,
Yeah,
Very.
very rare here. Right. I'm sure we have instances where that happens. And as Leslie was asking, if it's laundered, then you are right. So if I am
I'm laundering
auto
it for you.
repair shop and I'm sending out my coveralls each week and then just getting fresh, clean coveralls delivered each week, then I'm wearing a coverall somebody else wore last week. Just statistically,
yeah.
that's what happens. But that's very different than the 90% of what the NAUMD network is involved in is the direct sale of uniforms. We sell the uniforms to companies who are supplying it to individuals who then don't reuse it.
Okay. I think it's a cultural thing, maybe.
Yes, very much
It
so.
totally
And I think
is.
there's another interesting topic for us to write about.
That
All
one
three
is
of us could come at that from different angles. It's really
that is.
yeah.
That is a big one. And I think that's where sustainability comes in at some level, as well as don't over assort your uniform offering.
Oh. Huh.
When you think of it that way, less is more. You know what I mean? Do you need to have 5 different option shirts or things like that to lessen what you need to supply? Companies, it would impact them, but just thinking things like that,
Well, I also heard that in the airline industry, this also happens that, of course, you always get a new uniform, but when you're leaving and the uniform is just perfectly fine, that some airlines say, well, you can throw it, let's say, in some kind of basket, and then they will give it to people who also need a uniform. But this, from what I've heard, happens a lot when you need to buy your uniform. So some airlines say you get one uniform, let's say as a starter pack.
Yeah.
And if you want to have more pieces, you need to buy them themselves. Or they say we give you a certain amount of money every month.
Right.
And for that amount, you need to buy new uniforms. But when a colleague is leaving and they say, well, you can buy my uniform for a lower price, that's interesting.
It is. Or they just gift it to a friend of theirs that's similar size that's working.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But that is very interesting. And I wonder if the industry could do a official, how like they do this with cars and other items, like factory refurbished, right? Like this computer got returned, but we guarantee it's, been refurbished and meets all the specifications. I wonder if there's a way that we dry clean, right? And
that's what I was thinking. There has to be a cleaning service. There has to be.
Yeah. So somehow prove that, hey, no, this is really clean. We promise you, right? Because that's the issue here culturally, Aileen, is we're such a litigious, nation that if I put on, if I put on this uniform and I catch the flu, I could blame
I'm
it
gonna
that
sue you.
you gave me, the uniform of somebody that,
It's
know,
ridiculous.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or I got
Yeah,
a
no. Well,
ring.
I never ever heard that kind of cases here, to be honest.
No, that,
No, we're just
Yeah.
wearing each other's uniforms, but I have to be honest, I was washing my own clothes when I was working at that shop.
yeah,
So it is a uniform that you just can wash at home.
yeah.
Maybe that's also a difference, but
All right, Leslie, what do you got for us?
Okay, different subject, different subject. So, I wish I was on theme, but I'm not.
No, it's
So
okay.
I pulled the things I wanted to talk about today definitely directly from the Pulse because I they're such fantastic, not the
Right.
articles we write, the columnists, yes,
Oh,
they're
what Jackie
fantastic.
finds in
No,
edits. Yeah,
they're
yeah.
fantastic, but just different information. Maybe you wrote this one. Yeah, because I see your little face on it. So it was about how Dovetail Workwear
Mm.
in the United States, it's a smaller size business, women owned, women, they run. It's all, when I say industrial, I don't mean laundered necessarily. I mean heavy duty workwear for women in the, say electrical fields, not and farming and construction and maintenance, whatever, they're really out there working with their hands, right? So more blue collar type working. And this company, I'm a huge follower of this company, always have been. And one of the founders, her name is Sarah, DeLuca, who I've been lucky enough to meet and speak with her. They partnered with the Lycra company. So I think you did write this.
Well, we featured it in the NAUMD, yeah, but I think it was based on a press release of theirs. But go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So they created this little mini capsule, and the reason I love this story is so you just have to go online and check them out. They really got some cool stuff. Like they're kind of like a boutique version of a Carhartt. I always kind of view them because it's very unique. And I'm not getting paid for this or anything. I just am a huge follower of this company. Love it. And I don't get to purchase any of the product because I'm not out there building things. But they have this with the Lycra company, and it's called Cool Swap. And it's basically lighter weight, performance-driven workwear for women, which is not really new news in the industry, but definitely specific for women it is. And they're just, when they design this company and when they do things, it's all about women. There's no ifs and buts. And the fact that they partnered with this Lycra,
Yeah.
right, and created this little mini capsule says a lot about where women's wear, and I know you know this, Aileen, because we talk about it all the time, it's going. But it's just, I just loved reading about it. I love talking about it. It's not necessarily, something that's earth shattering, but to know that it's still such an important topic. And we have companies that just specifically do it. And the partnership just really broadened and grew their business, meaning their assortment. And I just,
Nice.
I'm a huge fan. So I don't know if anybody has thoughts on women's workwear or things like that, but I love this type of industry because it's not inexpensive, but it's going to last too. And there's a sustainability point to it. So I just, I recommend if you ever have time, go on their website, check it out. It's called Dovetail Workwear.
Dovetail. Yeah, so they're not new to our network. They
No.
They actually, they're not members directly currently, but Lycra is a member of our network. But 2 years ago in 2023, I just looked up while you were talking, we gave them an award with their work with Cordura fabrics. They with Cordura and Sapphire Finishing Mills, they came out with a cargo pant for women, specifically for women.
But it's super detailed.
And so they got an award for that from us in 2023. But yeah, that's under the good news category of, here's, like advanced work being done for, and I know
For
this is a
women.
topic very important to Aileen, right? That,
Yeah.
for women's workwear, that's not just, how was it phrased recently?
A copy of men's.
Pinked and shrinked, right?
Yep.
It's not just, we'll give it a female color and make it a little smaller.
Or sort of like a lot of industry do. Here's the men's, here's the women's version. It might be fit for the women, like they'll do a women's fit, but this is just specifically from start to finish, all women.
Yeah. What do you think, Aileen?
I think it's great that you talk about them. I've also following them for many years.
Oh, you
And
have? See? Yes.
Yeah. And I know that they are there for many years and they're doing a lot of good things. I am, let's say, a quiet follower, someone who's just watching what they're doing. And I have that with a lot of companies who I think are interesting. I also think that it's good to mention their name often because you heard a lot of companies who are saying things like, oh, workwear for women is not, you cannot build a business around it. It's not profitable. It's not, sustainable. It is. And if they're only just therefore, it's good to mention their name, that these companies do exist. And that is an argument that I also hear here in the Netherlands, like, oh, it's difficult. Women's work with women are difficult and it's not sustainable as a company. What? If
I'm
you're
laughing
making
at the phrase "women are difficult." It's like,
well, it's just how you compare them with men have their own struggles. But I mean, when you're looking from a manufacturer kind of perspective, they say women have all these curves and therefore it's difficult. That was just a short way to say it. So, but I think, yeah, and when people say, oh, it's difficult, it's not sustainable, and these kind of things, I always mention companies like Dovetail.
nice.
I say, they exist. And there are more companies in the US, but there are also companies here. They're slowly growing in the Netherlands who are focusing on women's workwear. We have one shop and they are selling here in the Netherlands. It's a physical shop and they also have an online shop only for women's workwear. So they combine all the brands and everything.
Wow.
And they only sell, but in my perspective, they're very, let's say, pinkish. They're always, selling clothes with a very pink color. And, it's, in my perspective, you need to stay focused on the job and not make everything so feminine and pinkish. But I think, yeah, it's great. It's great. Just their products, of course. I've never worn them, but it's great to mention them and to show people that these kind of companies exist.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, Aileen, number 2. What do you got?
Yeah, we need to stay within the. I have my big book here.
Okay.
We need to stay within the topic of women. Yeah, because we love women, of course. But that's sad. I am heterosexual. I don't want to be. But yeah, I love women. So maybe I was very interested if you know the whole situation from 2019 Q2 movement. Not Me Too, but Q2 from Japan. Have you heard about this movement?
No, how do you spell that?
It's K-U and then 2.
Oh, okay. All right.
The number
Q2.
All right.
Yeah, that was a big topic in 2019, 2020. And that was because there was a lady from Japan, and she was a journalist and an actress, who posted a post on, it was during that time Twitter, now X, a post where she was complaining about the fact that a lot of women in Japan need to wear high heels at work.
Oh.
And she was getting viral with that post. And therefore, the Q2 movement, and Q2 is referring to the words in Japanese, which means pain and feet, I think. Okay. And that movement was, getting a lot of attention, especially because she said so. And a lot of women in Japan said, yeah, that's true. It's really a cultural thing in Japan to wear high heels. Yeah. It's let's say people in Japan think that if a woman wears high heels, she is a little bit above average. She is doesn't need to work hard, But on the other side, companies want their women to wear those high heels, so they are forced to wear that. But that was not the whole discussion in 2019, because this was getting viral. But then the Minister of Health said it's necessary for women to wear high heels.
Oh boy.
Of course, that was a man. So that was a lot of,
what is this one?
yeah, there was a lot of controversy. There were a lot of problems, but and on the other side, she had a lot of female, a lot of women said, yeah, this is a good thing. So after this whole controversy, nothing, let's say, legally really changed. But the companies in Japan were thinking, this is a really a big topic. This is important. So now what happens this month, Japan Airlines changed their shoes into sneakers. And if you look at airline companies worldwide, this is not so strange, because more and more airlines choose sneakers. The last time I talked about barefoot sneakers in the airline industry, but they changed, let's say, I think 4 or 5 years ago, after this whole controversy started, they changed the dress code for the women in Japan Airlines. They could wear trousers instead of only skirts. That was a change. And now they also have sneakers.
Amazing.
But that's really interesting, because what I see now in, let's say, the last couple of months is that everyone thinks that, oh, the whole airline world is changing. They're getting more comfortable. The sneakers, the uniforms, the fabrics, it's all about comfort. But there is really a big difference, let's say, to American and Europe airlines and more Asian airlines. That's a big difference, because what you see, Japan Airlines now said, okay, we're going to change this. That's very good. But Taiwan, for example, in that country, even the human rights organization and the government needed to say to the airlines, you need to change your dress code. So you see that all those, let's say, international airlines like Japan Airlines, who are flying to many countries, feeling the pressure to change their dress code to more, let's say, comfortable shoes, comfortable uniforms, because the whole world is looking at them and saying things like, okay, we are changing our uniforms because we think it's important that people can work with comfortable shoes and clothes. But in these kind of countries, there's a different culture. The high heels culture is very big. I don't know if that's correctly English, but it's very important to wear them. So I think that was very interesting, because I didn't know if I talked about it on this podcast, but in Taiwan, the Human Rights Commission wrote a report to say airlines need to change their uniforms because this is discrimination on the basis of gender. But all those airlines said, yeah, that's interesting. We're not going to do this. And then even the government said, we're going to cut the money you're getting from us. And even then they said, oh, yeah, it's not so important. But when they get this international attention from the Human Rights Commission, they say, wait a minute, look what's happening here in Japan. They changed it. So it's really a big thing to wear skirts and high heels for women. That is something that I found out. Even though there are laws now in Japan, and let's say there's not a specific law that says you cannot force women to wear high heels, but there is a law about gender equality. They're still going down on the list of gender equality in I think that was the World Forum Economic list, and they're going down from place 110 to 118. So even though they're changing the uniforms and there are better laws, it's still a difficult topic there. So this is
I'm thinking about the cliches, that the West was exposed to from the Japanese cultural heritage of, they would bind women's feet, right?
Yeah, that's also, yeah.
So literally a woman's foot
make them smaller.
This huge, had so much meaning, right? I don't know if I may not be historically accurate if that was a Chinese or a Japanese thing, but I grew.
It's an Asian thing, yeah. It's an Asian thing, and that is also
learning that was, how crazy is their culture that they do this to their women, right? It's like, and then to then have these high heel, like almost laws, like you were saying, and then in 5 short years, you're saying, then it's really flipping the other direction. That's very interesting, you know. But then we have other parts of the world where women are by law required to have every inch of their skin covered, right? So there's, you know, it's like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, right?
Yeah. And this is also what you're saying now is one of the biggest reasons why I always say it's not like, okay, we've seen, you know, we're going towards a better time when it comes to women's rights. No, we still have to fight for it,
Mm,
because indeed you always need to fight for it. And
mm.
you can see this with dress codes. That's one of the biggest things when it comes to women's rights, where you see the first signs. If a country says, okay, you know, we in the UK, you also had a discussion many years ago where there was a woman who said I needed to wear high heels at work, and she made this such a big topic that at one point the government said we didn't know this was a topic, so now we're investing a lot of companies to say, hey, you cannot do this. So it's also a sign from a government. And when a Japanese government said, well, I think it's just necessary that women are wearing high heels, it's a sign towards the whole nation, like you can do this. So I think, yeah, it's
So
interesting.
Leslie, of the 1,000 uniform programs you've been involved in the past 25 years, do you recall high heels being like, this is the shoe you have to wear here in the US? No? Oh, okay.
I
But there were
haven't.
options, right? Like there might have been ones where there were high heels.
No, I actually, being full disclosure, never ever had to. I'm just like flabbergasted that that's a thing.
But is this
Because
also not a discussion when it comes to women are wearing dresses and skirts? Because that's what I see a lot of times, that a lot of people think that, let's say, sneakers, you can only wear them with trousers. But when
Yes,
women are wearing skirts and dresses, they need to wear heels. I don't
yes.
know what you see, Leslie.
well, in personal life and like functions, high heels are quite popular. It's a fashion statement, really.
Yeah.
In theoretically, and I, you know, the higher the heel, it's just more of a. It could even be slendering, things like that. I don't agree or disagree. I just find comfort if you're on your feet all day. That if you're not comfortable, your footwear is probably one of the most important pieces of
Mm.
what you wear if you're on your feet all day. And just the fact that that is a subject is just mind blowing.
But what do you see when you're talking to companies? What are their opinion when it comes to women wearing skirts and dresses and footwear?
Mm.
What is
Well, it depends on the client. Most of my past had been more workwear oriented industrial, but now I'm more in the hospitality side.
Mm-hmm.
There is a footwear company now. The mind is, I'm going to have to remember it. They create footwear for comfort. They did create a mini high heel. Because think of
A mini high
casinos,
heel,
Yeah.
a low
big
heel.
like
Yeah,
it's
low
not like
heel.
a 5-inch.
Okay,
It's probably like
yeah.
a 2-inch heel, maybe 2.5, 3-inch. But it really had a comfort feature to it if you're standing all day. One of the top industries that I do see that happening, wearing different footwear like that, would be casino type thing.
Yeah.
When you go there, the wait staff and things like that. It's all image. But there is a footwear company. I'm gonna try to remember the name, and they did create comfort heels for women in the hospitality market. And I never tried them or anything, so I don't know. But they had a thicker heel because usually there's different, height.
Yeah.
But interesting.
Well, before I got the Meniere's disease, which made me very dizzy, I
Mm.
was wearing heels all the time, everywhere.
Ah, yeah.
Like I had to throw them away. I think I had 40, 50 pairs.
Oh, wow.
In all kind of, yeah, it's crazy. In all different sizes, but the bigger the heel, as you said, the more stable you are.
Yeah.
And it gives a
Thicker.
certain feeling. But I think what I see now in the airline industry, that there are also airlines that say, okay, you can wear high heels, but we say how high they can be.
Mm.
So
That's
even though
fair.
you like to wear them, we say, okay, not above a couple of inches, let's say. There are different rules. So I think that's a good thing, because you are also responsible as a company for the
For
I don't
well-being.
even
because you could
understand how.
fall.
I don't even understand how women can wear high heels. I've never understood how you balance. I mean, are you literally just walking on the balls of your, feet? Is that, you're
Well,
not
it's
really putting
the
your weight
shoe.
back?
The shoe is a big part
How,
of it,
Mm.
how comfortable it is.
how
But
well made
also
it
the
is.
heel itself, how bigger it is, I mean, how
Yeah.
smaller, it's how more difficult.
Yes.
But I know, for example, because now I'm so lucky, I didn't share this, but my Meniere's disease is in their last part. I went to the hospital. They say it's almost over now. So my balance is slowly getting back. And I've tried some heels.
Yeah.
And I see that if you have a bigger heel, it gives you a certain feeling of, let's say, empowerment.
Well, so there's a height thing, right? That now you're
Yeah.
closer to the height of the men surrounding you, so to speak, right? And so, is
For
there
me,
an
it's
element
not
of
the
that?
height. I think I'm 173 when it comes to centimeters. So I'm not very small, but also not very tall. But it's more, let's say, the feeling of it. When you're
Sure.
wearing it, it gives you such a feminine feeling and a powerful feeling, and not instead in words of, let's say, power of being big. But that's for me. It gives you just a nice feeling. But now, after working on sneakers and low shoes, I'm just used to wearing comfortable shoes now.
All right. So I wrote this piece in the Pulse about an employee at a company that isn't male or female, that doesn't eat, that doesn't sleep, that doesn't wear shoes. So it's this interesting topic that we're all going to need to deal with. It's a robot, right? It's AI. Uh, and so what I did is I took a fictitious tactical, retailer distributor, and I said, well, potentially here's all the different ways that this robot could be assisting you in your business. And that's just stuff that's happening now, that's happening today, let alone what we can imagine, right? I'm a big AI geek. So I had fun
You
comparing
said
that.
it.
Right.
You said
Exactly.
it.
So, it's marketing, it's sales assistant, so it's research on companies, it's RFP responses, right? In crafting responses for that. It's taking notes in a meeting, right? So, I mean, now, I'm sure this happens to all of you. And all of you listeners, you show up to an online meeting and there's twice as many people in the meeting because it's Eric and Eric's AI are there.
Yeah, it's so
Taking
true.
notes, right?
So true.
So, and from a merchandiser perspective, Leslie, right? It's helping with all kinds of crunching, preparing lists and spreadsheets and inventory analysis.
Analytics, absolutely.
Analytics are crazy off the charts. One board member at a recent board meeting was talking about they use a very enterprise version of the OpenAI world, and they've been using it for a number of years now. Well, it can't be that many years, right? But it's been like 3 years or so, and like they were very early on. And he says it's amazing. They just basically dump their entire ERP in there, all of the data, and
it's secure.
Yeah. Well, so I asked about that, right? And he said, no, we're really walled off. It's a custom, use.
That's the key.
Right. Yeah. And but he said it's amazing that I can have it run all kinds of analysis, and it can spot things and help in so many ways. So I don't know. I'm just fascinated by all of this, and I do see that the robots are coming, and that we're going to it's going to profoundly affect our industry. It's going to profoundly affect every industry.
Oh, absolutely.
It is a topic that I'm planning on having speakers at the NAUMD related to lots of the things that I just said. So
That's
I don't know.
interesting.
What are your thoughts? Are you guys doomers? Will AI kill us, or will AI save?
No,
I
I
don't think
think
it'll kill
it's
us.
changing. It's changing the industry. I've heard an interview with Emma Grade. I don't know if you know her. Emma Grade is one of the co-founders of Good American and Skims. So
Okay.
she's a big part of the Kardashian family. And
Oh,
yeah,
Kardashians,
she's
I
not,
think.
let's say, directly a Kardashian, but she's working with them on the business part of it. She also has a very interesting podcast, which is called Aspire, where she interviews a lot of business people. And
Okay.
she said that in her company, she said at one point to all the people from different professions, she said, if you find something where AI can make your work easier, I'll give you a bonus. And she thought that from the creative side, let's say marketing, they will come up with the first ideas. But she said it was finances who thought about some ideas where they can make things more automatic.
Yeah.
And I think that was a great idea of her to say, just find something.
Yeah.
And I've heard people from the tech industry saying, I thought it was Mark Zuckerberg again, that said AI would not replace us, but it will create more creative jobs, because being creative is not something from AI. So it will replace the jobs where you do things like every time the same thing. So, for example, the finances, that is something, yeah, it's not like every time the same
Well,
thing,
they
but
do
it's,
say information services, which you almost could lump finances in with information, right?
Absolutely.
They say
Yep.
that, yeah, that one's, that one's going to get hit very quickly.
yeah,
But I mean, I use it creatively every day. So it aids me in writing and in picture creation, right? Most of the images for my article and Leslie's article each week,
I
I'm
know.
generating from AI, and sometimes
Yeah, he
it's
does my
brilliant,
images.
and sometimes you're like, oh, look at that AI image, right? But anyway, I don't know, Leslie, what do you think?
So I do know that I think I used to originally, I was like, oh, I'm scared, but I'm not any longer. It's a great help. Like, think of like when you're putting together a presentation or anything. It's a total replacement. Like copywriters, that's a thing of the past. People that went out of their way would look at product and write descriptions. Things like that are definitely. I can't imagine any company would need one, depending.
Well,
It
or is it
depends.
that the copywriter is still a position, but they're using my
AI.
hope would be that there's still this person who is the wordsmith for the company, the
Correct,
copywriter,
from a
right?
brand.
And then they're using AI though to do more, to do it better, to do it faster, to right.
It's
Like
definitely
Aileen was
faster.
saying, it's that the automated ones, right? We can get assistance with. But it's hard because I used to love writing, right? And I still love writing, but now I have this huge crutch where why should I bother now taking 20 minutes to compose this email? I'm just going to take my 6 bullet points I know I want included, and I'm going to have ChatGPT just write it out nicely.
So many people do that, and I see it when it's emailed to me, and I'm like, you didn't write
It's the stripes.
get that, and also you didn't
Oh,
write that.
the M
No,
dash.
you don't write that. Yeah,
I
not you. But
specifically have trained my robot to, I say, don't use the long dashes, right? You can train it, but
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, as a writer myself, I am writing every day, every morning, and
yeah.
that is for over 10 years now. I still love writing, but I use my AI tool as, let's say, a business coach. That's most of the time. So what I do, I talk about a lot of topics, but most of them are business related to, let's say, I have an article and I say, I have this research.
Mm.
So the research of Indeed is something I found, and then I want to say, can you dive deeper into this topic and
Yes.
compare it to others?
Right.
And so I write still. I am a writer, and maybe that's my ego, but I would not let ChatGPT write my articles. No,
Okay.
because I think that it's my tone of voice, it's my style, and even though they can, you can train them in certain
Yes.
ways.
Yes.
I think it's still your style. That's something people will always recognize.
Yeah, I
But when
don't
it comes
disagree
to
with that.
Agreed.
information,
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think with information, yeah, you can look. And sometimes I have an article that's pretty long, and then I am at the end, and then I'm just like, my energy is gone. And then I say, I have a deadline. Please help me. And then he
Yeah.
says, okay, you can finish your article mentioning this and this. I still write it myself, but he gives you ideas, topics, tone of voice, So when I'm writing for the NUMD, I'm always writing myself, but I do say sometimes, okay, this is my column. Can you check if the facts are all okay?
Yeah.
These small things.
The
Or
research
I
is
say,
crazy. Yeah. The
Yeah,
research.
the
yeah.
research is great.
Yeah, or I say, I know from the past, this and this happened. Is there an update on that? So I can, combine all these topics. And then he says, no, there's not. But still, you need to search on Google. I don't use Google as much as in the past, but
No, I
it's
hardly ever
always
use Google.
good.
Now I
I
use
don't.
Google when I'm trying to find a local business.
Yeah.
It's like that's what it's become more about,
Yeah.
I use it as like my personal editor to make sure that like grant everything. It's like, I don't have to go to an editing company. It's like, look, I have my own. Here's my
Right.
editor. Like,
Right.
here, meet my editor.
Yeah.
Here's everything. Like, here's me.
And
Like,
it's always
like,
available and it doesn't complain and you don't have to feel like you're asking it stupid questions because it doesn't care.
Yeah. What is
not
also
judging
very
me.
interesting, I saw an influencer a couple of months ago who said you need to ask your own AI, or let's say ChatGPT, a question like, what is my biggest what are my things that I'm good at, and what are my things that I can improve myself?
Yes, right.
And that is also very interesting, because when you're talking to AI as a business coach, or maybe a friend or a therapist, they can combine everything and they can say, well, from your professional or your private life, you can this and this change it. And yeah, I think it's very interesting.
And it's ridiculously accurate if you have fed it enough, right?
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
it, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That's important.
So, Leslie, I think you've got the final.
I'm going to wrap us up. So I'm kind of in your territory a little bit, Nathan.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I was focusing this week or this time on just aesthetics and what I like, right? So Delta, as you know, is coming up with a new above the wing program. And again, I pulled this from the NAUMD again, which was a more of a they announced this. So it's probably not going to officially roll out, I believe, till 27, but they're going to
really?
do wear.
Okay.
That's what, yeah. But they're going to do huge wear testing. But what I loved about the concept of what they did, especially in the US airline industry, I'm not by any means an expert, but there's been a lot of controversy, from like it started with American Airlines and then Delta, where the above the wing, there were lawsuits that, there were issues with the clothing and things of textile chemicals and things, right? So that's a thing of the past. But Delta fully embraced it in the sense of, their go forward program. They've done like some of the testing they've done on this fabric is in excess. Like they started this process a couple of years ago. They've been testing this fabric intensely since then. And so like some of the, like when you test fabric, because I've done it, it takes a couple of months. This is like rigorous testing. And now it's going to go into an official wear test. And what I find interesting on the concept, aesthetically, it looks great. But the concept of making sure that it's safe textile wise, and it was years in the making, is interesting to the fact of what is the next step? Like, is everyone going to follow this process, when you have a big program? Because if not, you see the results of, employees saying, "Oh, I was sick wearing it and this and that," which is an old story, but still. And I mean,
so we have
I've
to
always
ask, though, are they only doing it because of the lawsuits, right? That's, of course, the
of
skeptical
course,
version.
probably,
So,
but it still begs to, it still brings up the subject of safety,
yeah,
even in that type of industry.
yeah.
Like, you're not out fighting a fire or anything like that. There is a level of safety.
So,
So,
there's lawsuits in the U.S. right now, though, among the fire industry because of
yeah.
PFAS, forever chemicals, right?
Yeah,
So
on
the industry gets sued,
Quite often.
and the U.S., as we mentioned even earlier in this podcast, we are a litigious nation. Most of our elected officials are lawyers, right?
Absolutely. I even have one
So,
that lives in my house.
right?
A lawyer, that is,
So,
not an elected
so
official.
that's just one of the ways that, unfortunately, our society here in, America, marches forward, is by, well, we're going to do it through the court system, right? And so if that has led to more testing, then great, and maybe
That's
this
what,
sort of thing will be a long-term benefit by those employees raising their concerns. And I don't know, what do you think, Aileen?
Yeah, what do you think about the whole rigorous testing for
Well, yeah, since I am
hospitality?
making a lot of videos about airline uniforms, I
Yeah.
also
I know you
dive
do.
into this topic. Yeah, and Delta they have a huge history when it comes to this whole uniform problems. I have to say, we don't know for sure, but there are some speculations that one of the reasons that people said they're getting sick is because they don't like the uniform.
Huh.
So it's getting, let's say, blown up as a problem. But what I think is very interesting in this whole Delta Airlines story is the fact that they won the last case. And I was reading my own article back. In the reason that they won the case, and in this case, I mean the company and the manufacturer of the clothing, is because the people who are saying that they're getting sick of the uniforms weren't doing the right, let's say, complaints procedure. So they didn't fill in the
Oh my
the
God. So it was
paperwork. They didn't send it back at the right time, and therefore the court said, if you send your clothes back way later, than supposed to be, the company who was making the clothes cannot just check them
Hmm.
at the right amount of time. So I think that is also very interesting, that it's not even the whole discussion about the materials or the uniforms, it's just the way you handle them. So I wrote an article about what HR can learn from this case, is that it's so
Right.
important, if you have a complaint about a uniform, that you really need to dive into the contract of the company and the manufacturer, like what are the rules? What do we need to do now? And not just think, oh, I'm complaining, I'll go to court, and then I say, oh, it's all bad. No, you need to make sure that you do everything in procedure.
Yeah, and following the rules of
Yeah.
that is, of course, a huge component of our legal system here in the U.S. And companies and individuals are at fault or not at fault. Almost, it's probably 80% of how cases are decided is, did you follow the rules or not follow the rules, I guess. Well, I guess it's that's the definition of a law. It's a rule, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people forget it, especially in the airline industry. It's a lot of emotions. It's a big group of people, and they can say to each other, "Oh, I don't feel good. I don't feel good either. Oh, whoa, it's making us sick." They can also just make it a little bit bigger. I don't know for sure. I know I've spoken to some people who said, "Yeah, I know." I have some people in the comment section on one of my videos who are saying, "Yeah, it's not just complaining. I really got sick." Well, I don't know. But I know that these rules, it's so important. It's so important.
Yeah, the timeliness of it. In the company, companies can fix problems if they know about it in a timely fashion.
In a timely manner, absolutely.
But there's arguments both directions, right? The sort of the statutory nature of, well, it's been 20 years, so we can't convict you of this murder that we now can prove you did 20 years ago, right? It's like, there ought to be, accountability no matter what on one hand, but on the other hand, if I don't have a reasonable chance to be accountable, then, am I really a bad person or corporate citizen if I didn't have the chance? So it is a very interesting topic. The silver lining, as you're pointing out, Leslie, is, well, let's hope that this leads to more and more testing, and certainly
That's
like
what I
I was
found
talking about
fascinating.
on the PFAS side of the, firefighters and, others that are saying, hey, guys, right, we think we're getting
This is
sick
a big
from
deal.
this. Let's do more testing. And I think AI will help us do that.
I have no doubt.
With everything. Yeah.
All right. Well, this was really good talk today, ladies. Thank you so much.
It really
Yes.
was. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
So we'll talk soon.
We'll
Well,
talk
maybe not
soon,
super
and you can
soon,
read-
Are
but-
you
Read our articles at naumd.com/news, and you can read more about the topics that we've been discussing.